Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Duncan Ferguson. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah. I will be your worship associate today. Our minister, the Reverend Lisa Day, will return to the pulpit in August, and our choir will return in September. Our music director position is currently open. If you know of anyone, let me know and I'll let Luke know. I will let Jordan know and Kurt know. Our pianist this morning is David Rigsby, and our speaker is Randy Blasch. Randy Blasch has been a UU for over 25 years. He is a graduate of the Meadville Lombard Theological Seminary with a Master's of Divinity and is a candidate for the ministry. He recently completed a 2-year internship with the Unitarian Universalists of Coastal Georgia and Brunswick and the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Statesboro, Georgia. This September, he will be starting a 1-year residency as a chaplain at Emory Decatur Hospital in Decatur, Georgia. He is the father of 2 amazing sons and the grandfather of 3. He is currently living in Brunswick with his dog Bentley and his cat Cheeto, and he will relocate back to Atlanta in early August. We are delighted to have him. Welcome.
Thank you.
Here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Savannah, we are working to build a diverse, multicultural, and beloved community. We celebrate the presence and participation of people of all races, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, and ethnic and national origins. We warmly welcome you on YouTube and here on site, whoever you know yourself to be, and wherever you are on your journey. If you are visiting with us this morning and would like to introduce yourself, please raise your hand and our usher Raven will bring you a microphone. As part of our commitment to accessibility, we use microphones whenever anyone speaks so that everyone here in the sanctuary and on YouTube can hear. Are there any visitors on this side?
Hello, I'm Sebastian, and I brought my friend Nell and her son Orion with me today.
Welcome. Are there any more visitors on this side who would like to introduce themselves? Do we have any visitors on this side who would like to introduce themselves? I see a couple.
Hello, my name is Susan. I live here, and I've been stalking you guys on YouTube and decided to finally show up.
Thank you. Welcome.
Well, welcome.
I'm Pat Rourke. I've been here a few times. I live in Savannah, but longtime Unitarian at 30 plus years.
Well, welcome. Are there any more visitors who would like to introduce themselves? Okay, well, if you are all very welcome to be here, whether you are brand new or have come hundreds of times. We are delighted that you are all here. If you are looking for a new faith community, we encourage you to visit several times to get a feel for our worship style and our approach to matters of faith and religion. Please join us in Ron Hall for refreshments following the service. You'll find Ron Hall through these doors if you go out these doors and down the ramp, or you can go out these doors and around and follow the crowd, or just ask an usher. After the story for all ages and after our offering, we sing a short response, and the words are printed in the order of service. There are 2 cards in the pew back in front of you that we use to gather information for the betterment of our community. Use the QR code on the Rainbow Chalice card. Use the QR code on the Rainbow Chalice card to sign up for our newsletter and to receive a welcome letter from our minister, or if you prefer, just fill the card out by hand. The card with the red heart and chalice is to share a joy or a sorrow. If you fill out either of these cards, please put it in the collection plate a little later this morning. Church announcements are emailed to members and friends every Tuesday and Friday. Please check your emails for complete details about the following. The Fall Celebrating Families program begins August 5th. Please consider providing a meal, reach out to Chris Carroll or Judy Gauthier. The Savannah Voice Festival's 2025 opening night will be August 7th at 6:30 p.m. here in our sanctuary. And the Anti-Racism Committee has a library full of books and is encouraging you to consider checking them out, including the amazingly insightful Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. With the lighting of our chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith, we enter into sacred time. Our chalice this morning is Dr. Lorraine. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through to enlighten our ways, that new truth is ever waiting to break through to illuminate our minds, that new love is ever waiting to break through to warm our hearts. May we be open to this light, this truth, this love, and to the rich possibilities they bring us.
Good morning. Our call to worship this morning are words taken from author and musician Daniel Handler, writing as Lemony Snicket. They say, assumptions are dangerous things to make, and like all dangerous things to make, if you make even the tiniest mistake, you can find yourself in terrible trouble. Making assumptions simply means believing things are a certain way with little or no evidence that shows you are correct. And you can see at once how this can lead to terrible trouble. For instance, one morning you might wake up and make the assumption that your bed was in the same place that it always was, even though you would have no real evidence that this was so. But when you got out of your bed, you might discover that it had floated out to sea. And now you would be in terrible trouble, all because of the incorrect assumption that you made. You can see that it is better not to make too many assumptions, particularly in the morning. Come, let us worship together. Please stand as you in body or spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 298, Wake Now My Senses. We are going to sing verses 1, 3, and 4. We have got a wonderful story for all ages today. So anyone who would like to come up so you can see the pictures better as we read through the story, I'd love to have you come forward and join us in the front. Good morning. Our book this morning is called A House for Every Bird and is written by Megan Maynor and illustrated by Kalani Juanita. I drew all these birds, and a house for every bird. Doobie-doo. Red for red, tall for tall, a house for one, a house for all. Ta-da! What are you doing, Bluebird? That house is not for you. Oh, no. This house... Yeah, sure. Thanks. Oh no, this house is for me. Orange is my color, so bold, so bright, full of light and like me. But you're blue, only on the outside. What? That doesn't make sense. I'm just going to step in here and put you back where you belong. You too, Orange Bird. Darling, this is where I belong. Blue is my vibe. So cool, so calm, so chill. You know, hey, small bird, what are you doing? That large house? Shoo shoo. Let me tell you, I have a whole flock of cousins. We're in a singing group together, and our act is huge. We will fill this place up. But that's not fair to Large Bird. He can't live in a small house. Hi. I get worried in big spaces. I feel much better in this small house where I can touch all the walls at once. Please don't yell at me. Okay, but that's enough. I am the boss here, and I say no more switching. Maybe I should have used tape. Where's my glue stick? Psst. Are you going to use that swing? Honestly, no. I get motion sick. Sweet. I'm training for the Ninja Bird Warrior auditions, and I could really use it. Grip strength is key. You know, want to trade for the pond view? How delightful. Yes, please. No, no, no. You have it all wrong. Ducks like ponds, parakeets like swings. Yeah, not this duck. I don't swim, man. Nor this parakeet. What is going on in this neighborhood? Birds, you need to stay where I put you. Everyone stay, stay, stay. Are you kidding me? Why are you all so difficult? We like what we like, darling. That's not difficult. It's simple. But I was trying to help. I made a house for every bird. How was I supposed to know what you like? Ask us. Oh. But I thought I knew. Ask us. You mean I'm supposed to just ask us? Okay. Greenbird, you're still in the greenhouse. What kind of house do you want? I'm good. Really? I got one match? Right? You're a green bird who likes a green house? Actually, I like this house because it's next door to my best friend. Hello. But I don't mind the color. I guess you really can't tell a bird by its feathers. Sing it. And the only way to know a bird is to get to know a bird. Now you got it. That's using your bird brain. You can tweet that again. Okay, I'm going to make some bird food, doobie-doo. Seeds for one, seeds for all. Wait, does every bird like seeds? I prefer nuts. Fruit. Bugs for me. Veggie burrito, no onions. Extra guac. The end.
He read that whole thing upside down, so I think today's going to be amazing.
We say in our church that the offering is a sacrament of the free church. What we mean by that is that we believe it is a blessing to be able to govern and support our religious community ourselves, to make possible by our generosity everything that we dream of and do to live out our shared values. Every week, we lift up the spiritual value of generosity by taking an offering for the ministries of this church. Our plate then, as it is passed amongst us, becomes filled with the evidence of that generosity. It is our harvest gathered in every week for what most nourishes us. The ushers will now come amongst you to receive the gifts of the congregation. The morning offering will be most gratefully received. To donate via debit or credit card, please use the QR code on the back of the order of service or go to www.uusavannah.org and click on the donate button. Mailed checks are also welcome. Thank you for your generosity. have a couple of joys and sorrows this morning. From Kurt, we have a concern and a joy. I am scheduled to have hip replacement surgery on Friday, and we wish you nothing but the best. A joy is that Diane Hutter's 2 follow-up surgeries this past week were very successful. There is still concern for her that her road to recovery is going to be long. If you wish to send Diane a card, please see Steve after the service. Steve, are you here? I don't see Steve here, but please see me after the service because I have the address if you want to send a card to her. And Louise Fraser and I both have the same sorrow. So I'll read her words, which are, for all those who lost their lives and or are still missing, and for their families in the devastating Texas floods, our heart goes out. Louise's and mine and all of our hearts go out to these individuals and their families. Let us hold all of our joys and sorrows, spoken and unspoken, in our hearts as we join together in the collective reading found in your order of service. Sorrow is everywhere. Yet joy is to be born. As we mourn together, so we celebrate together. And offer thanks. So may it be now and in all the days to come. Our spoken meditation this morning is by Matthew Rosen. It will be followed by a minute of silent meditation. May our voices be. If another strains to breathe, may our voices be the gentle rise and fall of their breath. If another chokes on tears, may our voices be the opening to hope. If another has forgotten, may our voices be a memory upwelling. If another is adrift, may our voices be the calling of community. Our first reading this morning is by Shunju Suzuki. A professor once visited a Japanese master to inquire about Zen. The master served tea. When the visitor's cup was full, the master kept pouring. Tea spilled out of the cup and all over the table. "The cup is full," said the professor. "No more will go in." "Like this cup," the master said, "you are full of your own opinions and speculations. How can I show you Zen unless you first empty your cup?" Our second reading is by Jack Kornfield, The Gift of an Open Mind. Open-minded listening allows us to learn others' perspectives. Deep listening does not negate one's own experience, one's own feelings, needs, or preferences. Instead, it offers an ambiance of mutual compassion in which problems can be identified and multiple perspectives can be understood. Open-minded practitioners attempt to keep a beginner's don't-know mind in order to see more clearly how a situation affects everyone involved. The world is bigger than it seems to a closed mind. It is bigger than any individual's memory or opinions. While treasuring our own values, we can make room for others. Please rise in body or in spirit for hymn number 134, Our World is One World.
Please be seated. have to make a confession. I have been known to occasionally, every once in a while, possibly maybe look at some videos on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok. And it seems that lately it has been presenting me with a lot of little short films, little Hallmark movies, as it were, that are all basically the same story. Some person, usually a person from a marginalized community, has parked in a wrong parking spot or is interviewing for a job, and they are confronted by a person of some privilege who lets them know in no uncertain terms that they are in the wrong place or doing the wrong thing or are not capable of doing a job because of who they are or their apparent station in life. Then later in the vignette, it is found that the person who was being belittled is actually the president of some such company or did some kindness to someone, and the privileged one loses out on a job or is fired, but in all cases made to look like a fool for how they made assumptions about that person. Assumptions are something I think all of us would admit to making on occasion in our lives, even when we had the best of intentions otherwise. So to dig a little deeper on this whole idea of assumptions, let's do a little thought experiment together, shall we? I'm going to tell you a story. It's a true story. And then together we will see how many of us made assumptions based on the information you are given. You ready? Our story begins on a hot day in early August of 2010. Like so many other parents around the country, I found myself in a long line of cars waiting to drop my son off at college. I finally pulled up in front of my son's dorm, popped open the back, and a myriad of students were there to meet us. They took my son's bags and boxes to his dorm room, and just like that, he was off to his new adventure. He would spend the next couple of hours in orientation, and I would do the same. The parents learned all about upcoming events like Parents' Weekend, Homecoming, and oh yeah, those fees that we could expect to pay that were in addition to all the room and board that we already knew we were paying. We heard presentations from the president and the dean of students, and even from the chaplain, who I took a moment to chat with. He asked who my son was, and he said, "Oh yes, he's the Unitarian Universalist." "Well," he continued, "we don't have a UU service here on campus, but I'd be happy to contact the local UU church, which is not too far away, if you'd like a ride there on Sunday mornings." I thanked him, said I'd pass on that information to my son, knowing in my heart of hearts he would never choose to attend on Sunday morning. Following the orientations, we got some additional time with my son in his room. It wasn't much of a room, but really what dorm room is. I met his roommate, Clark, and his parents, who I would become friends with over the next few years. We chatted, exchanged email addresses, and then it was time. We left our boys there to begin this next chapter in their lives. Okay, here's the congregational participation part. How many of you can relate to this story in some way or another? Yeah? How many of you formed a picture in your mind of what it might have looked like? Now, I will tell you, my story is technically what happened when I dropped my son off at school some 15 years ago. But there are a couple details that I may have left out, and when added may change the picture a little bit. Yes, I was in a long line of cars to drop him off, and yes, it was a beastly hot day in August, and yes, when it was my turn, I did get to pull up in front of his dorm. But unlike dorms that are named after a well-financed alumni or a famous person from history, I, on this day, pulled up in front of a dorm named 2nd Battalion. And the students who unloaded my car were cadets in uniform, and the orientation my son went to was to get his head shaved and stand at attention and have orders barked at him for the next 2 hours. In my orientation, well, the president of the institution was a retired Air Force general. The dean of students was actually called the commandant and was retired Marine Corps major, and the chaplain was a retired Marine Corps chaplain of some 30 years. I did, in fact, get to go visit my son's room, or cell as they call it, and I met his roommate and his roommate's parents. And after we left, I didn't hear from my son for 6 weeks, but we were told ahead of time in my orientation that no news was good news. You see, my son, who was raised in a UU church with a father who would end up being a graduate of Meadville Lombard Theological School and a candidate for ministry, was now officially cadet at the Military College of South Carolina, more formally known as the Citadel. Changes the picture a little, doesn't it? But as they say in those late night infomercials, wait, there's more. As I said, I became friends with my son's roommate's parents, but what I did leave out was that his parents were his moms. Moms who were concerned how their son, whose father was a Citadel alum, would be treated. Valid concerns, and I'm sure they had made many assumptions of what his life would be like. But their assumptions were put to rest, as they would tell me, when they saw that his roommate, my son, was a UU. And they knew then that everything would be all right. And that Marine Corps chaplain, well, he would become a mentor to my son over his 4 years. My son would finish his time at the Citadel as a member of the Chapel Guard. And I would find out shortly before graduation that it was that chaplain who made sure that these two young men would be roommates, knowing that my son as a UU would be a perfect choice for someone who had two moms. Nobody saw that coming when I first mentioned the story, did I? That weekend, I assumed so many things about so many people. What the staff at the Citadel would be like, what my son's roommate and his parents would be like. There was a lot of assuming that weekend. I'm just curious, did any of you assume, as I told my story the first time, that I, being a UU and all, dropped my son off at some beautiful radical liberal arts college with ivy-covered halls or a state university somewhere? Yeah. Well, the state university part is kind of sort of true. When I left that day, I did so with even larger assumptions of what his time in school and would be like, and many questions came up as a result. Would attending the Citadel change my son? Would his beliefs and politics change? Would all those lessons I and his RE classes growing up taught him be swayed by this place? I'm happy to say they were not. He's still an advocate for those who serve under him in the Navy, no matter who they are, where they are in their spiritual journey, or whom they love. He's married to an amazing woman that he met in Japan, who's Japanese, and they're raising his multi-ethnic, multicultural children to be caring and loving. And while they are not currently attending a UU church, which I remind them more often than not, I'm working on that. He is raising them in a very UU home. And one could, I suppose, assume that this was the entire point of my sermon. People should not assume, and if that's what you assumed, well, that would be a false assumption, partially. It would be easy at this point to wrap this up and say, don't assume it's wrong. But it's not that easy, because you see, assume is one of those words in the English language that has two very distinct definitions. In the sense of my story about my son, I assumed I knew everything there was to know about dropping my son off at the Citadel and about the people who would be leading him and how it would impact him. But as Lemony Snicket said in our story this morning, making assumptions simply means believing things are a certain way with little or no evidence that shows you are correct. And we can all see how, in this case, that could lead to terrible trouble. But you see, there's another definition of assume that has a completely different connotation. That definition is to take or begin to have power or responsibility. And if we look at it through that lens, my son that weekend assumed the role of cadet at the Citadel. And I assumed the role of being a parent with a child in college. Today, I've assumed the role of being your guest speaker, and you the role of congregant, sitting on the edge of your seats, waiting with bated breath for my next impeccably delivered word. Well, I assume that's what you're doing. There are many roles that we as people may have assumed in our lives. Parent, child, employee, employer. One of the roles that I'm working hard to assume these days is that of an ally or advocate for those in marginalized communities. What I've discovered as I tried to assume that role is that I have assumed much of these groups I'm trying to ally with. I've assumed in many cases that they actually want me to be their ally. I've assumed that I know what those communities need, and like the girl in the story, I know what's best. Just live in the house that I give you. Oh, the concept of assuming and assuming is confusing. But I had a small epiphany the other day while I was walking the dog that may clear things up a little, or it may muddy them up even more. I don't know. I don't want to make an assumption here. I came to realize that assuming, like I did about my son's school, or that the little girl in the story did about creating houses, is a passive act. We're just sitting back, making the assumption, waiting for something to happen. I'm making my decision based on what I think or feel and not what is actually needed. And I'm not doing anything but making that decision based on what I think I know. Whereas when I'm assuming a role, I'm actively participating in something happening. I have control over whether I'm going to take something on or participate in a protest or a boycott. You may have control today whether you listen to me or not. So if we look at assuming in active context, maybe assuming isn't as bad as we're led to believe. But I cannot assume the role of advocate, speaker, or even the father of a Navy officer if I've been assuming I know what that group may need or want from me. To actually participate, I'm going to have to know what is needed in those roles if I'm going to be an actual advocate. What does my son want from me as his father or the grandfather of his children? What do the homeless or the economically disadvantaged that I've been working with in Brunswick this past year need or want from me? An easy answer would be like we heard in our story, ask them. But in doing that, I'm assuming the person wants to be asked about their story. Some people, frankly, are tired of telling their story, and in many cases would prefer their allies just figure it out on their own. But just figuring it out doesn't mean we have to make assumptions. I've slowly started learning ways of helping without asking those I'm trying to help what to do, assuming the role without assuming what they need. As an example, the question of what can I do to help you has been replaced with I have this skill or I have this resource. Could that be helpful for you? I've also learned just to ask, do you want my help? Sometimes the answer is no, and if that's the case, I need to respect it and walk away. Sometimes it's yes, and that's when I will look and respond with my questions I have to offer to see if we have a match. But there are times, though, and many of us have experienced this, where someone will say, yes, I would like your help, but you can't quite get a match on your gifts and their needs. And that's okay. But when doing that, don't assume that means you can't help. just might mean that not right now. Or sometimes it means I need to use my skills to find someone else that can assume the role that that person actually needs. In our story for all ages this morning, and I assume you were listening to it, we heard our author, Megan Maynard, tell that story of a little person who drew pictures of birds and also drew a house for every bird. But the mistake that she made in the story was thinking that the blue bird would like the blue house, or the duck would like the one with the view of the pond. And after much frustration with her bird's friends not wanting to live where she assumed they would like to live, she said, "I guess you can't really tell a bird by its feathers. And the only way to know a bird is to get to know a bird." Along those same lines, I think a mantra for me and maybe others might be, you just can't assume a role if you've assumed you know the role you're about to assume. You got to get to know a person. Together, you can make a difference. May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. Please rise in body or spirit and join me in singing hymn number 126, "Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing." Of assuming is tough, and there are no easy answers. Making assumptions about someone or something isn't the best way to learn about a particular situation, but when one can assume an active role in that situation, then assuming isn't so bad. So maybe, just maybe, it's time people stopped assuming and started assuming. I think that's what folks need to do. Go in peace. Enjoy your week.